So that was the problem with most of the RDS databases. That's why people move to their Dynamo.
Yep.
Now,
So
in Dynamo, how do you automatically max read and write? Is there an auto-scaling function that you could use?
there is. Yep, there is. So if we take a look at just one of these as an example, if we go to capacity, you can set up capacity, auto-scaling capacity, but again, you got to be careful because it just depends on the use case. If somehow you're getting DDoS or something, someone's doing something malicious, you can end up charging yourself a ton of money if you're not paying attention to your auto-scaling. But that's what CloudWatch alerts and all that sort of stuff is for.
So the capacities, there's actually a huge gotcha that I ran into with that,
Yeah.
which is your capacity is per partition.
Per partition. So, what do you mean?
So DynamoDB behind the scenes partitions your data into big chunks. So your like read and write capacity, if you say like I want 100 IOPS, that's divided by the number of partitions you have. So if you're trying to get data from one specific partition, just because like how your data started, you get 1/n number of partitions.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
And it doesn't show up here, does it?
Where did you find that?
So it's in their docs, but there's no way to find out the number of partitions. You just have to read, and then you say, oh, it's a 10 gig limit.
Well,
and then it divides it out behind the scenes, and your throughput just drops.
Would the partitions be based on the cardinality of your key or the main?
They do some of that as well, but it's also based purely on size.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's for me in production. I ended up moving back to RDS.
We'll use RethinkDB. You may want to take a look at that. It's a little sketchy on support, but now that it's been open source, we've had a really good. It acts like Cassandra, but it's a lot easier to use, and we're having really good luck with it.
What's the DB?
RethinkDB.
Rethink.
Yeah.
That is.
Take a look at it sometime.
That's interesting. So there's another gotcha that I'll have to add to the slide for later. So cool. But yeah, I mean you can do it, and I don't have it enabled just because it's sort of still in development, and last thing I want is some bot to come in there and cost me some money. Although I'm gonna get that Amazon money pretty soon, so. But I think
Bitcoin mining endpoint that I can hit.
I think it is going to go to Bitcoin mining, though. But at least most of it, unfortunately, or fortunately. Still on CloudWatch, log streaming is awesome, and I want to show you why log streaming is awesome. So if we
There was
go,
a question over here.
oh, sorry.
Oh.
Yep.
Go on.
Okay. All right.
There was.
With CloudWatch, all of your endpoints are in these different log groups. So for me, I have them. I can jump in here, and if I want to see, what's going on with one of these, I can go ahead and take a look, or let's find one that maybe has something. I could go ahead and look through here, but that's kind of annoying. So what I ended up doing was I took these log groups and I said, I want to stream them to an Elasticsearch cluster. So the only thing that's not serverless or not regional inside my API is this Elasticsearch cluster. So if I jump over to that, Amazon offers a great service.
Yeah, but you didn't actually have to go up and set up your EC2 instances, right?
No, yeah, the only EC2 instance that's running is for a VPN for the, I have this in my VPC.
Huh.
So it's not public.
I would still consider it serverless. It's just not.
Yeah, I didn't have to provision the server. Yeah, exactly. So, here's my little Elasticsearch cluster, and then I have Kibana on top of this. So if I need to ever look through some data, I haven't gone through and actually said, formatting the logs for myself, but anytime an article doesn't process properly, I get notified, or it goes into the Elasticsearch cluster, and I can kind of see what happened and what the news article looks like. In this case, Australian restaurant garnishes its margaritas with cow idols. So for some reason, one way or another, this one didn't get processed, and that's really diet. So here it is. So it's usually the record before it. The supplied attribute is empty. I just haven't looked through it. So it's really cool, and then you can scan through our logs. So the next thing that I'm going to do with this log streaming is take my logs from my API gateway and start sending those to Elasticsearch as well. Or streaming them to CloudWatch and then CloudWatch to Elasticsearch.
Are you using Redis or Memcache?
No, not right now. The only thing that I was going to use Redis for play analytics, but then I started using SQS. So then I throw everything in there, and I just have another job that just pumps it into the database.
So when you mentioned DDoS before, You using Shield or?
So when I mentioned DDoS, there was one great example that that Amazon had at reInvent with DDoS and Lambda at the edge. So a lot of WordPress sites will get it's like the XML RPC DDoS or something like that. I'm sure everyone's heard that or familiar with that. And so what they do, or what they had some customers do, is they set Lambda at the edge for a viewer request, and if that viewer request was matched some sort of bot signature, then they just toss the request out. So while they had one Lambda function get slammed like crazy, their backend servers were never hurt. So that's sort of the power of this piece right here, the viewer request, or even the origin request. If you get past that viewer part, maybe before you even hit your origins, you could still send them back out. So that stuff's super powerful. And I'll probably be using more like viewer response stuff later on to add a little metadata to the headers and all that sort of stuff to the front end. And then, put that here. And then events are really cool inside of CloudWatch. If no one's done events, it's basically cron jobs. So you can have those, again, any region that you want, have them calling any Lambda function that you want, doing all sorts of job scheduling. And then the only gotcha with Lambda is no async await. If anyone writes a lot of JavaScript, you have to put some unicorn dust on your code and get it up to Lambda for it to accept it properly. Which is pretty cool. So I guess to recap, multi-region rules, deployments are super easy with Terraform and Serverless. So as long as you have your deployment structure nice and easy, and you specify which region you want your code to go to, it makes it really easy to deploy it out. I think the only hard setup is the Terraform piece if you wanted to Terraform your entire AWS environment like you did, which is terraforming that per environment. But then once you have that set up, Serverless takes care of the rest, and it's easy to get it out at each location. And then API gateway, regional versus edge, just depends on the use case. If you want to do regional, you want to have a little bit lower latency versus at the edge. Depends on how multi-region you want to go. Lambdas can be deployed at each region. Global DynamoDB tables. Aggregate your logs in Elasticsearch like I showed you. And then the only thing to be careful of is the DynamoDB cost, because that can add up when you're not paying attention. And that's it. Everyone have any questions?
Awesome. Thank you. So one thing I noticed with Serverless, this whole Serverless stuff started people were complaining, oh, it's really expensive.
Yep.
But they didn't really understand what they were doing. And a known fact of this architecture, if you don't architect it properly, then you shouldn't do it. Because then you're going to drive your cost up exponentially.
I spent countless amount of hours making sure that each little piece, like the logging piece, was set up properly, because I want to make sure I got my logs right, and like my API was set up properly. Lambdas didn't have too much flexibility in there, so they could go hog wild and cost a lot of money. And I benchmark a lot of my Lambda functions with my node code to try to cut as much out as I could, so I can use less memory at each one of my hits. And then, like I said with DynamoDB table, I didn't set up the auto scaling because I just didn't want to incur those costs accidentally. So if something goes wrong and someone hits a bad MP3, well, tough luck. But I cache all the time, so hopefully in most cases you'll hit the cache. So if the website loads real fast, you got the cache. If it spins for a quick second, then you're going to Dynamo.
Is there a? I could Google this.
Yeah, no.
So, but if someone, all right, look at this. Different languages that are supported in Lambda. Startup versus speed of execution, because so I've been doing Java.
Yep.
A little slow on the first one, but then
I think it's a little faster.
it gets
That's a Lambda architecture.
Yeah.
right.
So cold starts.
Right, but I did see one yesterday comparing Go and Python, and Go was like significant.
So the languages supported JavaScript, Python, Go, Java, and .NET.
Right.
Yeah.
C#. And I think Go will be the all performance-wise.
Okay.
JavaScript, easiest to use. You don't have to compile it, you don't have to zip. The rest just depends on what you know. You can actually, like we were talking about, you can run almost anything as long as it can run in its own executable on Linux, then you can run it in a JavaScript wrapper. We did that with Go, but no, it's finally supported, you don't have to do that. So
Yeah.
Supposedly the JVM started from Java.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you can use
Java big libraries too.
Yeah, you gotta zip the log.
And so does Node too. So when my deployments roll out, I mean, it's 16 megabytes or something for the code that I need to ship out there with Go, and all I need to ship is a binary. It's going to be super small in megabytes. So I think part of my next not iteration, but some of the things that I'll be fine tuning will be using Go to do things like if you jump onto Audify right now. A lot of these images that are out there are a little bit too large, so some cool things that I'll be doing in Serverless next are going to be processing these to just smaller images in the future. I started to try to do it with Node, and then it was just a little chaotic, so I'll probably do it in Go, and then ship those out to S3.
Just a point on the cost. If you look at the pricing, they bill in 100 millisecond increments. So if you've got one thing that runs in 83 milliseconds and one that runs in 60, you don't save anything. So you have to kind of be careful where you put your engineering efforts into what you want to save. You have to look at it, and it's important to pay attention to it, but it's also one of those you can over-optimize it and not get the benefit out of it. A lot will depend on the engineering.
There's also, I don't know if this is the same one that I use, so maybe, I'm sure it's all the same. You can actually, essentially get the estimated cost of your Lambda functions.
This is a cool site.
How'd you map your DNS names to your API gateways?
Sorry, say that again?
How are you mapping your DNS entries and
Great question.
API gateway?
So I'll show you here. So, yeah, this was really fun to do this, and I think it actually turned out really well. So if I look at my API, it's this one. So I have, is this the one? Behaviors. So I have different path patterns going to the same origin, but having different cache times. So which is one thing I couldn't control with API Gateway. You have the ability to do caching in API Gateway, but it's caching in Redis. And it costs more money. So for me to do it with CloudFront and have, so like as an example, if we go to streams and we edit this, I've got a 2-hour cache time, which is the time it takes for me to process new records. So every 2 hours I get new records, I know to bust my cache at CloudFront every 2 hours. And then I do that all through, I'll jump into Terraform real quick. Just put this up. So as I was showing you in that screenshot before, all the different Terraform files. So if we look at the CloudFront API, I just have my different origins in there, and their caching behaviors. So anytime I go to deploy, if I wanted to have something custom, or if I wanted to go to the default, I'm good to go. But if I wanted to create something custom in there, like as an example, this stream is part of integrating with the SDK, so you have to provide the API key to get through CloudFront.
It's awesome, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions? Does anyone want to Terraform their AWS environment?
Right now?
Two ways to do a hybrid like you have.
Sorry?
Ways to do a hybrid like you have.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think the more you can put in Terraform, the better.
Better. Yeah, I mean, my serverless files are very slim. It's literally the function and the event that it needs to call. I think I'm going to move over, they just released CloudWatch log group retention policies, so I'll move that over. I've been managing that in Terraform, so I'll move that over to serverless because that's pretty easy. It's not destructive. But yeah, I mean, everything else, I throw it all in Terraform. And for each one of this, let's say the serverless API, the main one, I put out a small little Terraform file associated to each one. So anything that's special or unique, that's not global, that's just for that particular function, such as the IAM credentials, I have that inside its own little Terraform file within this repository. Keep it nice and clean. Any other questions?
Can you pull up a browser real quick?
Sure.
So I dealt with a lot of pain with DynamoDB when I first started using it. That was like a year and a half ago. So I wrote some articles that talks a lot about this stuff. It might be still not dated, so I need to go back and update it. But if you go to serverlessarchitecture.com and then just do a search for DynamoDB.
Okay. Put my spelling to the test here. I was like typing architecture. I'm like, oh my god, please send it.
So DynamoDB cheat sheet, it covers a lot of the stuff that we talked about.
Okay.
There's also some on architecture and the indexes.
Cool. Yeah. The indexes, oh, this is cool. I'm going to have to definitely read this.
And there's a join my mailing list if you guys want to be updated.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I won't spam you.
This is your domain?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're. This
That's
is
why
sick
it looks
domain.
so crappy.
Do you get a decent amount of traffic to it?
It's picking up.
Yeah,
I haven't really had time to do too much with traffic monitoring. Like I haven't even put ads on it or anything yet.
Yeah. It's funny. Like this would be a really popular thing to go to. I bought DevOpsEngineers.com and I run a Slack group that has like 4,000 or 5,000 people in it, and it gets hit all the time.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing with this.
Yeah.
It's been out for like a year and a half. I just
Cool.
haven't had a lot of time to put into it.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway that I had to building this, and I think so far I did it right, or at least I feel like I did it right, is architecting your DynamoDB table the way you want and really fine-tuning it. Because it could get unwieldy and it could get confusing as to like where
And
data
then
is.
once you learn it, it's pretty awesome.
It is
There's
awesome.
a learning curve.
Yeah.
If you go back to the homepage,
Yep.
there's an image that I really like. You guys probably saw it.
Oh yeah. Serverless.
Evolution of serverless.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. All right, everybody.
Excellent.
Yep, thanks. Also, plug, if anyone wants to integrate Audify into their blogs, just let me know.